isn't it? Okay, would you like an opener, Coach?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Absolutely, New Year.
Why not? It's a new year. I've forgiven everybody from last season. I'm going to start off with an open mind. I've seen lots of posts. I think our team's going to be pretty darn good. How about that?
All right, we'll get started. Maz, yeah, I saw you first.
Brian, you got a lot of new shiny toys in
A
which for
few.
you to be able to mix and match. The opportunities provides for you to be diverse in attack, and I would say defense with uh what Josh Atencio going to center back.
Which one do you want to talk about? The attacking or Josh first?
Start with the attacking, sir.
The attacking stuff. So diverse. Yeah, we have options. Obviously, Jesus won't get here till after the national team camp is over. But what it does is it gives us options. It certainly provides competition because if you're looking at it, and you're looking at the roster and you're looking at 11 guys get a play, I mean, there's healthy competition there. So you got Jordan, you got Jesus, you got Albert, you got De La Vega. Where does Paul play? If we stay some games in 4-2-3-1 or however we line up, Georgie and Paul have done well. There's a lot of attacking pieces that there's plenty of good competition there. So for me, that's great. I mean, I love it. It's going to drive the training environment a little higher. And we've already got, I think, 40, 39, 42 some games on the docket. So we're going to need everybody. So that's a positive. And then as far as Josh is concerned, yeah, we'll leak that out there. I mean, I think Josh's development as a young man, as a soccer player, I think it's the right timing. It was congested in there. And look, if it doesn't work, he can always go back to playing midfield. But I've made a commitment. He's made a commitment. It's his career, not mine. He's made a commitment that we're going to work on it. And, we'll see if we can have a story like Aaron Long. Aaron Long was here. He was a midfielder all his life, moved back and had a pretty successful career at center back. Eric Zavaleta, just center forward. So it happens. It happens.
All right, we'll stay on this road. Go over to Jose.
Brian, you mentioned that it's a new year. What are some of the things that excite you about a fresh start to a season, not just from an implementation of what you're trying to do, but from a culture fostering ability or opportunity for creating something and shaping it to what you want it to be?
I think what we're trying to do, Jose, is kind of just evolve the team to be a little bit better in certain areas of how we play, but also in big games, in big moments. Because last year, I think we got to a quarterfinal, semifinal. And what is that intangible, whether it's culture, whether it's competition, whether it's the way we played, scoring goals, how does that evolve the group to get past some of those teams that we failed against in those big moments? We're always excited as coaches. I mean, we had a good time last week planning things. We're excited about our trip to Spain. It keeps old guys like me young. You get new young guys in here to try and see what they can do, see if they can make the squad. It's always an exciting time for coaches.
All right, we'll head back here to Alyssa, and then we'll come back down. I know there's a whole bunch of questions on this side.
Hey, Coach. Paul just characterized himself as an annoying pest. And then we also heard Christian and Jordan say that he's kind of known for getting under players' skin, but they love him as, obviously a friend. What does a player like that do for a team?
Well, I mean, look, we haven't had him very long. When we played against, I'm trying to think of when we played against him, what are some of the moments where I thought he was an annoying pest? I don't remember those. What I do remember is, in the playoffs, we went down to Dallas. We had won the first game here at home. We went down there and they first 15 minutes, Arriola scored a goal. it made Nuhu's life miserable that game. They came and they took it to us. And I remember that performance by the kid. I think Paul is a very experienced, polished player. He's going to help us with depth. He's going to help us with scoring goals. He can be goal dangerous. And look, he is a good kid. I talked to him one-on-one. We talked about a lot of different topics. And I think he's a pretty nice young man. And I have high hopes for him.
All right, we're going to come to this side of the room to Nico T. Thanks, Gigi.
Good to see you again, Coach. The idea that it was only a 40-some-odd day off season and the way you guys played in the home stretch, is there any carryover of that momentum, and especially the way things finished down the home stretch for you guys?
Well, I hope there's the sour taste in their stomach that's the carryover. You know, that little wanting, that little nagging, little, kind of, man, we were that close. I hope that's a carryover. Obviously, how Jesus fits into the team, De La Vega, his progression, Paul, some of the things that we were good at last year. Let's just see how that goes. But yeah, I think we have a good team. I think we have a very good squad. If you start doing the math on the goal, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but Jordan had a career year in goals, all comps. Albert had a good year, a career year for himself, but Jesus can score, 12, 15, 18 goals. He scored 22. Then Paul's going to pitch in a little bit. Then you get some goals, hopefully from Jackson and Yaimar. You're going to hopefully Obed can maybe put in, and you start doing that math, and then maybe the narrative is not so much that we can't score. Maybe it's still we should score. Maybe there's that narrative, but if we can combine the good defending that we've shown over the last couple of years and put a few more points on the board, I think that's going to help us.
All right, we'll swing back this side, go to Tim next. Thanks for waiting. And then Jeremiah, we'll go to you.
Hi, Brian. I'm going to ask you if Christian's analysis is accurate. He said that Paul and Jesus might bring a little bit of randomness and unpredictability to how you guys attack, that maybe at times last year you were a little too, not station to station, but a little too predictable about how you were going at goal. Is that a fair analysis? And what maybe will those two bring that is different in your mind than what you've had in the past?
I don't know if I'd agree 100% with that. I'd have to think about why Christian said that. But look, yeah, Georgian, he was unpredictable. Paul was pretty unpredictable. Nobody predicted that. But the stylistic way we played, the formation, was that too rigid? I don't know. My take on all that is, yeah, you set players up in a formation that, you think is going to work. And then you allow creativity within that formation because, look, just using Georgie and Paul as an example, when Paul plays left wing, it's very workmanlike, up and down, run. Georgie plays left wing a little differently. We look a little different, but it's still the same position. What I would say about Paul and Jesus is you've got a couple of experienced guys that can make things happen. Jesus can score, anytime the ball's on his foot. Inside, I like Jesus because inside the 18-yard box, he might be unpredictable. Maybe that's where Christian was going. And Paul, again, there, we'll take a look and we'll see what's in there in preseason. But, if he can, be unpredictable and score a bunch of goals, I'd be happy with that.
Jeremiah?
Yeah, if you look at this team on paper, it feels pretty complete. There's not a lot of room to move around, and just curious where you, how would you compare this in terms of completeness and how that changes the way you go into preseason when so many pieces are already in place? Like you know who you're going to have. You're not waiting on a big signing the way that oftentimes ends up happening.
Fans are.
No, you when you approach it, or no, I'm saying the team is you know what you have. Yeah, exactly.
We know what we have now. Yes, but the team constantly changes. There might be a summer signing. I've asked Craig for some certain things as we look at the longer term, roster construction. Maybe you can answer that question that way. Because look, we've got some guys that are getting a little older, and we got to start thinking about, okay, what happens when Ymar goes, and if JP moves on, we kind of solved that one a little bit. But and Jordan's 30, and you just that's normal business for Craig and Adrian and those guys to think about. As far as our preparation, my preparation as a coach, I think it makes our job a little bit easier knowing what we have. But again, the challenge with that one is just Jesus, because where is he going to fit? Exactly where is he going to fit? Because we're going to play with two forwards. He's a little withdrawn. Where's his tendencies? We'll need to see him up close and kind of make those final decisions. And again, look, every season is a little bit different, and the starting lineup day one might be a little different come towards the end of the season.
Nico.
Coach, to kind of Jeremiah's point, I wanted to ask you, in today's MLS, a move for a guy like Ferreira is probably underrated. Probably doesn't get the respect that he should. When you think about when you first heard that he was a possibility, that you were going to bring him on, and now that you have him, when you look at a guy that's at his age and has the trajectory both at the U.S. men's national team and the MLS level, how excited does it get you? And can you kind of give us some feedback on what you thought initially from the move?
For sure. I think you're right. Look, and everyone is entitled to their opinion, and certainly the sport and the social media channels, everybody gets to talk about their team, and I appreciate all that. I get it. But we are adding a player who started in a World Cup match, okay? A kid who scored 22 goals in a season, and you try and buy a player that scored 22 goals in whatever league he's playing in, that's going to cost you some money. So we can all wait and see, and let's keep our fingers crossed. And I don't want to put a lot of expectations, because it's not just Jesus. It's got to be everybody that pitches in. We needed to use everybody last year because the seasons are long. We're in a lot of competitions. We've got a long season to go. But getting Jesus and him being able to, pitch in, like I said, his amount of contributions, goals and assists, that's going to help the squad. So I was very excited. And look, the other side of that, the flip side of that, the conversation that's going on is, look, people are saying, well, is Jordan Morris a DP? Well, he actually earned that. He earned that. And Jordan got better as the year progressed. Remember, I made that change almost halfway point of the year last year. So other than his rookie season when he played forward a little bit, he's been playing both wings, a spot at number 9. It was 6 months as a number 9, and he's even going to get better. So let's just see. Let's just see how it shakes out.
All right, Jackson, thanks for your patience. You're next here. Felipe, I see you.
Hey, Coach, you talked about meeting with the coaches last week, talk about preseason. What are specifically in those boxes you want to check off this week here and then throughout Spain? What are the goals for this preseason?
Fitness and assessment this week, because we got to assess some of the young kids, draft choices, who we like, get a final roster to go to Spain, which defines players are going to come with us, the young guys. And then in Spain, we'll really dig deep into the tactics and the way we want to play. The games over there are against good competitions. We got some good games lined up. We get excited about that. You're playing against teams from Europe. It just feels different. The place we stay in Marbella is very nice. The training grounds are very nice. So it's been a good trip for us. But we're excited. It's back to work. It was a little short. I didn't know it was only 40 days because we're working all the time. But we're excited for it.
All right, over to Felipe, and then Nico and Tune. After that, Mazza, see ya.
Coach Brian, you have one of the best defensive line in the league, and then what do you see in Paul Arriola? Now you're working with Josh Attention to include him in the defensive line. What do you see in Paul Arriola that make you bring him over the with the team, thinking that he's more like a defensive player?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm going to classify him as a defensive player. Where Paul ends up, if we play 4-2-3-1, he would play right wing. In a back line of 5 as a wing back. I mean, he can play both of those positions. But look, Felipe, you know me well enough by now. I mean, everybody has to defend. I mean, Raul had to defend. God bless him. I mean, he scored a lot of goals for us, but even he had to defend. Jordan has to defend. Jesus has to defend. They all have to. It's a team sport. So, as far as is he classified as a defender? I don't think so.
All right, Nico.
So a little bit of a two-parter. If you could give us some insight on the kit number changes, Muzoski to 19, Arriola to 17, but then wanted to talk about Leo Burney at number 4, straight from Ballard. To go off of that, how important is it for the club to dip into the local soccer teams in USL2, UPSL, Ballard FC?
So as far as the numbers are concerned, I didn't know that happened, so thanks for letting me know. That's Nolan Meyer's job. And the players, they sometimes, maybe Muzoski had a bad year. Maybe he needs to change his mojo. I have no idea. As far as Leo Burney is concerned and the local prospects, look, Washington, Seattle, the Northwest has always been a soccer hotbed, in my opinion. Started way back when Mark Peterson, Jeff Stock, Jeff Durgan, myself, Freddie Hamill, Chance Fry. I could go on and on. The list is very long. And getting local products like Paul and Jackson that went to college and then came back and became pros is not, everybody thinks you got to be a pro at 17, 18, 19 years old. There's a different path. And maybe Leo has that same chance because he's a good player, big kid. And his physical testing scores were pretty good. But he also has to be a soccer player. He has to learn, make sure that he understands that. But, I'm happy to bring local guys back to the club. I think it's good.
All right, time for a few follow-ups. Maz, why don't you take the first one?
See if I can be succinct on this. Brian, you talked about at times last year you needed that bite in your players, and now you just talked right now about the need to finish. You went off on some semifinals and to get over the top. Did the two players you bring in, because they're both known for tenacity and the ability to finish, is the hope there that they can bring that and that can be infectious to the team?
By Pacific Northwest grit, when I brought the guys in here earlier this morning to talk about life and what it means like to, enjoy their careers, because being a pro athlete's a really good career and they're lucky. If they're upset or they're angry that, the coach doesn't like them or the coach doesn't play them or, they've had a bad day for some odd reason, I just say, well, look at the people that are dealing with fire and losing everything they own down in LA. Or look at Megan Young, one of our strength and fitness coach who had a really horrible form of, well, all cancer is horrible, but she survived. And so you think you're having a bad day? Somebody else is having a worse day than you. So don't complain. And I don't think that, Jesus and Paul are going to, bring a new type of attitude there, because I think that's already ingrained in what we do here. I always tell them to read Boys in the Boat because it's a great book. The movie was not so good, but I love the book. Love the book, right? It talks about the Northwest. And that's what I think about when the Seattle Sounders come to mind. So they got to actually come into that fold. Jesus and Paul, they got to embrace that because they are going to work. They're going to defend. They're never going to quit. That stuff's going to be beaten into them. Now, what are they going to bring? So against the LA Galaxy, I mean, could we have, gotten a few more chances out of all the possession we had against the Galaxy. LAFC, some of those struggles. Can we score a couple more goals there? The Houston series, I mean, we won it by penalty kicks, and our penalty kicks are pretty darn good, but I don't want to do that again. I'd rather those guys help us win games in regulation. That's what they're going to bring.
But that takes a
Well, they're like I said, they're going to bring it, and if they don't have it, they'll learn it, because we got a good bunch of guys in there.
All right. Yeah, Jose, I see you. Yes, I see you too.
Brian, as you guys prepare to embark on your trip to Spain, what are some of the things that you're hoping to achieve out there, not just from a soccer standpoint, but from a culture building, an exposure to this young man to other cultures as well? What are some of the things that you're really looking forward to achieving there?
It's a great question, because the rooming list, the who's flying first class and who's kind of back in economy, some of those little things that challenge people. We don't have like Albert and Alex are always roommates on the road. Well, no, you're going to have another kid in preseason. You're going to learn about your teammates. And we have different things at our team meals where I get the new guys to stand up and tell stories and what are they about. So we do lots of that kind of team bonding stuff. We'll have a team dinner out there with the entire staff. Last year was out at this really nice restaurant out on the beach, and it's just good. There's just feel-good moments that you can do out there when you're away from home that, kind of connects everybody.
Jeremiah?
Yeah, a couple, I guess, practical questions on Josh. Did he initiate that, or was that something that you guys initiated in terms of trying out this new position? And then I guess you could just give sort of a general health update. It looks like Paul and Reed are maybe still doing a little side work.
So Paul and Reed are still recovering from their injuries that they had late last year. They will be back in training, a little bit of training tomorrow, and we'll probably ramp them up. They're valuable players to the squad, so I'm not going to rush it. They'll probably do most of the work in Spain. But there again, we need both of those guys. And then as far as Josh is concerned, we started to think about that last year because he just wasn't getting enough playing time. He's a talented kid. He's super talented, but where does he fit? Because Obed and Christian now, and then JP. So there was a little bit of a logjam, Danny Leyva. So there's a little bit of a logjam. So Josh has all of the physical characteristics, especially if we do go back to a backline of 5. Play one of the two guys out here. Jackson plays in the ball. Josh is, got the technical ability to carry the ball forward. He's got to improve on his heading, but he can defend out wide. I mean, there's plenty of reasons why his profile fits that position, but it was kind of just a conversation that started a little bit last year. I talked to him here before we started, and he's going to embrace it. He likes it.
Nico, last one.
Just wanted to get your thoughts on, something that maybe it's also not very looked at is that this might as well be Pedro Vega's first year again. He got so little time. What is your thought process on working him into everything that you're looking at? And do his expectations change this year compared to his first year? And how do you work that with a guy like him?
I'll keep the expectations, again, in line. It's probably a little bit, the expectations jumped up a little bit because he played some decent minutes last year. Would I say he had a complete game? Maybe that one game where he subbed in, he was really good, and there's another game that he was okay. But yeah, the expectations might creep up a little bit, but it's always the how. How do you get him to match and meet those expectations? Well, number one, his testing, way better than last year when he first came in. But the body fat, the strength, he's a much better athlete now. And I think now that he's kind of gotten the hang of it, he had some hiccups with the injuries, but there's no excuses now about assimilating into an American culture. So I think he's checked a lot of boxes already. And so now, he's just got to perform on the field.